Our top stories tonight: Prime Minister Christopher Luxon visits Niue. New Zealand commits $21 million for renewable energy. And 2 Niueans on the King's Birthday Honours List this year. Good evening and welcome to our BCN News Bulletin. I'm Mersa Takala. A special whakalafa atu to our viewers from across the region thanks to our partners at Pacifica TV. Leading our bulletin tonight, New Zealand's Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Christopher Luxon, chose Niue to be the first Pacific nation to visit since becoming Prime Minister in November last year. Here's more of the Prime Minister's visit with Esther Pavihi.
We begin with the traditional welcome by the Awasele and Tamagotonga warriors to welcome the Prime Minister, who was accompanied by his wife, Mrs. Amanda Luxon, and their delegation. Prime Minister Luxon was welcomed to the island on Monday afternoon by Premier Dalton Tangilangi and the Speaker of the House, Hima Douglas, and also members of the Cabinet and the Niue Assembly. A guard of honour by the Niue Police was also part of the programme. Despite having an historical relationship with Niue since 1901, very few New Zealand Prime Ministers have visited Niue, and for those who have visited, it would only be for a few quick hours stopover before moving on to the next island. It's understood that Prime Minister Luxon is the first New Zealand Prime Minister to stay overnight on the island. This visit is also significant. He was here for the first commemoration of King Charles III's birthday. A reception co-hosted by Premier Tangilangi and the New Zealand High Commissioner Mark Gibb was held at the New Zealand residence at Tāpeu on Monday evening.
I hope that we work together with our regional partners, other leaders within the Pacific Islands Forum, to drive the 2050 strategy that we've been working very hard for in the last few years, taking on from our predecessors. There's a lot of people that work behind all this, and we got to lead by example. Niue is taking a leading role in the areas where Niue can only be delivered on. But we rely on the support of New Zealand, your leadership, and your people to help us achieve much more than what we are.
In response, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said how happy he is to visit Niue, especially this year, marking 50 years of self-government and free association with New Zealand.
Can I just acknowledge Premier Tangilangi and just say thank you so much, Dalton, for your leadership, for your passion, for your advocacy and your championing of Niue. I also have appreciated our burgeoning friendship. I know we're going to be good mates and good partners together, and I just know that our two countries are in good hands if we can get good dialogue going between the two of us, and I really appreciate the conversations we've already had. As a new Prime Minister, I really respect Premier Tangilangi's perspectives on regional issues, and so it's a good chance for us to be able to, for me to listen to him and to understand the region better. So I really appreciate you spending so much time and hosting us so beautifully here.
Prime Minister Luxon and Mrs. Luxon stayed for 2 hours speaking and meeting with guests, which included members of the Assembly, Australia's High Commissioner, heads of government agencies, business leaders and NGO representatives. The evening was blessed by the President of the Ecclesia Niue, Reverend Nevi Salatielu. On Tuesday morning, the Prime Minister and Premier Dalton Tangilangi and their officials held bilateral talks at Whalefono, where the two leaders affirmed their commitment to the special constitutional relationship between the two nations. In the afternoon, the delegation was hosted to a traditional feast at Liolo in the village of Awasele, hosted by the people of Tamagotonga and Awasele. As is customary for visiting dignitaries, the Prime Minister planted a coconut to mark what is hoped to be his first of a few visits to Niue. He planted the coconut at Awasele. It was also a rare occasion, and much to the excitement of the locals, to see Prime Minister Luxon and Mrs. Luxon dancing while the locals sang and entertained the visitors. To end the event, the young people of the two villages entertained the delegation before they headed off to their final engagement. At Hannon International Airport, before leaving the island, Prime Minister Luxon officially opened the newly resurfaced airport runway, a project that the New Zealand funded over $40 million towards. All in all, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon's visit to Niue has been a huge success. Locals were very happy that he made time to speak to people and not just to the leaders. While not wanting to appear on camera, BCN News was told that upon entering the airport, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon took time to speak with customs officers, and at every event he attended, he made sure to speak to people and would pose with anyone who wanted a picture taken with him. Just over 24 hours after arriving, Luxon and delegation departed the island bound for Suva, Fiji. Esther Pavihi for BCN News.
New Zealand has pledged to invest almost $21 million into new renewable energy project. This was announced by New Zealand Prime Minister Honourable Christopher Luxon at a joint press conference with the Niue Premier Dalton Tangilangi held at the Whalefono 2 on Tuesday morning. As Niue prepares to mark its 50 years of self-government with New Zealand, both countries have agreed to enhance the special relationship that exists between them.
Looking ahead, we want to be a trusted partner, and we're going to continue to be great friends over the next 50 years as we go forward together, building on the past, but also looking forward to a future that we can actually shape and build together. One of the important ways we can do that is obviously by making sure that we're building on a sustainable future for all Niueans. With that in mind, and in celebration of the 50th anniversary, I'm very pleased to announce this morning that New Zealand will be investing almost $21 million in a new large-scale renewable energy project so that Niue is able to generate 80% of its electricity from renewable sources.
Niue Premier Dalton Tangilangi said these are exciting times and this can all be achieved if we work together.
Very excited to hear the vision of how the Prime Minister of his leadership and how he sees us moving forward, and that is great. If anything that comes out of these discussions that we had this morning, it's their line of communication and also the understanding of our unique agreement or that partnership, how we can elevate that to the level that it should be. I still think there's a room and more work there to do in the sense of that ongoing support. But what else that Niue also can do in order to help out or in order to deliver on that support.
Honourable Luxon in his address was grateful for the warm welcome shown by the local people.
It's been an excellent opportunity for myself to actually get familiar with Niue. It's a place I've wanted to visit for a long time. It's a real privilege to be able to come and spend a night here. I wish I could spend many, many more nights here. I feel like I'm leaving without having fully explored everything and seen everything, but that's a good reason to come back, which I look forward to doing. But it's just been a great opportunity to see the breadth of the relationship and also to really appreciate the shared history and the connections between our cultures, our peoples and our economies. Very special to go through the museum. I was quite moved by seeing the World War I exhibit there and thinking about that shared history and that contribution from Niue and what that meant for the people and for those soldiers. It was quite special.
New Zealand has also committed $2 million to the Niue Oceanwide Trust now, which is a public-private partnership aimed at developing a resilient blue economy to ensure long-term ocean conservation and management. Funding for these initiatives comes from the New Zealand's International Development Cooperation Program. In this special segment, BCN News senior reporter Esther Pavihi sat down with Prime Minister Christopher Luxon overlooking Avasele Bay to talk about the visit to the island on Tuesday afternoon.
Niue and New Zealand have enjoyed a very long relationship, 123 years in fact, and yet you're one of the few prime ministers to visit Niue. How important is this visit for you?
Well, it's a place that I've wanted to come to for a long time. I've had a lot of friends and family that have spent time here and they absolutely love it. And so it was a real tremendous honour to come here. It was very important that I came in the 50th year of the anniversary. Obviously, we've got a very, very special constitutional relationship and a long-standing partnership and friendship. And so I couldn't think of a better place to come for my first Pacific Island visit anyway. So I had got to know the Premier when he came through Auckland back in December, early December, and we hit it off immediately. And I said, man, I'd love to come and see you at some point. So he very kindly sent an invitation, and here we are. Pretty special. I mean, this is a very special year with 50-year anniversary. We've already had Speaker Jerry Brownlee and a parliamentary team through here in April. I'm obviously here today and yesterday, and then likewise, we've got Winston Peters, our Deputy Prime Minister, coming I think in July, and the Governor General coming in October. So, again, it just speaks to my desire to lift the intensity of all of our relationships around the world. But there's no closer relationship than Niue and New Zealand.
It's not long. Prime Minister, this is a significant milestone year for the people of Niue, and not just for the government of Niue. What would be your message to the people of Niue this 50 years?
Oh, look, I think to celebrate and to be incredibly proud of what has been achieved and built in that 50-year period. And in fact, it goes back to longer, to 1901, but obviously since 1974, a fantastic partnership between our two great countries. And I just want to reassure the people of Niue that they'll have no closer friend than New Zealand, and that I'm really looking forward to the next 50 years and very excited and very optimistic about the future.
This is a world-class facility and a great asset for Niue. These were the sentiments shared by New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon while officially opening the newly resurfaced runway at Niue Hannon International Airport on Tuesday afternoon. Here's more on this story. BCN News had a chance to speak with the Chief Operating Officer for Transport and Infrastructure at Downer Limited, Murray Robertson, this week on the now improved airport runway. Robertson was part of the delegation that arrived with the New Zealand Prime Minister on Monday.
This is a fantastic chance for us to be here for the opening. This is a project that started pre-COVID and together with MFAT, the team have delivered this work. It's pretty much, the runway is finished now. There's just some work to be done on the lighting. So 25,000 tonnes of asphalt was laid here. It's basically the first time this has been resurfaced in 25 years. So it's really brought to life this runway and provided a robust airport landing for the people of Niue.
Prime Minister Luxon, while opening the runway before his departure, says this will also boost the tourism sector of the economy.
Again, this runway represents a lot. It is a world-class runway. The fact that it has been fenced, the fact that the lights are coming will enable that we've got a wonderful terminal there with good border control with the X-ray machines and a world-class runway. This runway is longer than the one in Wellington for the Kiwis that are with us, just for the record. And I just got to say, this is actually it's not just about the aviation asset that's here. It's about what it enables, and what it enables is the restoration and the expansion of the tourism sector of this economy.
Robertson said Downer Limited has been proud to be part of this project, especially working alongside the local people since the project began pre-COVID.
Very, very proud. I mean, the team right across the Downer business in New Zealand and Australia, this is a really important project for us. Downer's been working in the Pacific for 40 years now, and so being here and seeing the quality of this work just really sort of drives it home for me just how important our work in the Pacific is. I think one of the key highlights of this job has been the way our teams cooperated and worked with the people of Niue. We had, at our peak, there was sort of 40 people on site, but we've had 85 people come to this project, and through that we've also employed 6 people from Niue. We've trained half a dozen people, so people have been really integrated.
The airport runway was part of a $41.6 million aviation infrastructure upgrade project funded by the Government of New Zealand's International Development Cooperation Program. Director of Utilities Clinton Chapman has provided an update on the current roadwork on the island.
We know that people are driving on the newly laid slurry seal, which is the black tar that goes on last. So at the moment the contractor is working between Alofi and Tuapa to seal that last layer. The job has been done half the road first, and then the next half as we go along when the other side has been finished. But the problem is people have been driving on top of the still soft slurry seal when it's been put down.
Chapman is also advising everyone to follow the rules as there are talks about providing fines and penalties. Roadwork is expected to be completed by the end of September.
We've been talking to the police department and see what is available to do that. But we appeal to people's common sense first. We know that the message is not getting to some of the tourists that come into the island. I mean, the cones are there. They shouldn't be driving on the slurry seal in the first place. But we still have our local the elderly folk. They probably haven't got the message because we have held meetings with all the village councils from Mutalo to Alofi to inform them of the traffic management plan some weeks ago.
In her recent visit back to Australia, Australian High Commissioner to Niue, Katie Stewart, had an opportunity to visit with the Niue community in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane.
Firstly, I would like to thank the Niuean Australians for their hospitality. It was truly one of the highlights of my posting as Australia's High Commissioner. I represent the Australian people, which includes Niuean communities, of which we have 6,200 people in Australia.
Her Excellency Stewart said she had a chance to give an update on the recent activities on the island. There are about 6,200 Niueans living in Australia.
It was an opportunity for the Niuean Australians to ask questions of their High Commissioner, get an update on what's happening here, the shared priorities between Australia and Niue. And I gave each of the communities a hand-painted by Olga Wilson tablecloth, which recognised the 50th celebrations, and also gave an update on Niue's plans for the 50th, and a wonderful experience.
The Niue Cultural Dance Group has arrived safely in Hawaii for the much-anticipated 13th Festival of Pacific Arts and Culture that kicked off today. In their official page, the group had an early morning start, making their way to the Kualua Regional Park for the Va'a welcoming ceremony yesterday. More than 2,200 delegates from 27 Pacific nations will gather for 10 days of cultural exchange and celebration at multiple venues across Hawaii. You can catch all the latest updates from the festival on our TV Niue's Channel 3. The Niue Girls Brigade held a Yam Feast event at the Millennium Hall last Friday. The Niue Girls Brigade Commissioner Bakis Tawasi said it's a celebration and blessing of the ufi. There were about 11 stations from around the island that presented their yam harvest at the event.
This is the gathering for the Girls Brigade Niue and Boys Brigade Niue. And this is what we call, we start off with calling it celebration of the ufi. Then we come to the blessing of the ufi. And then we come to the eating of the ufi, what we call the ufi feast. So today we come together to have a kai, eat the ufi. So that's the name of our program today.
The event is part of a Niue Meteorological Service project that is focused on observing traditional knowledge of weather and climate. The Yam monitoring program started in 2019 with the community-based early warning systems.
So my role in this program is part of the traditional knowledge officer, is working along with the community groups as well as these organizations into collecting and observing traditional knowledge on weather and climate. Here in Niue. So as you see tonight in this part of this program, especially designed and implemented by the Niue Girls Brigade itself and the Boys Brigade as part of the displaying of the yams. Yams is one of the important traditional climate indicators here in Niue, and to predicting tropical cyclones. As you can see here tonight, is a display of yams. How did they grow the yams from last year, and then monitoring and then collecting all those data and information on how the yams can telling us what's the weather and climates in the next season or as we go along.
The Niue Girls Brigade has about 170 members ranging from the ages of 4 to 7 years around the island. 2 Niueans are amongst 9 Pacific Islanders recognized in this year's King's Birthday Honours for their service to Pacific communities across New Zealand. Leatua Lale Maliatua Lin Pavihi of South Auckland was awarded a New Zealand Order of Merit for services to Pacific education. Pavihi has been contributing to education for 19 years and was integral in the establishment of the first Niue language bilingual unit, which opened in 2021 at Favona School in Auckland. Malingi Hetutu of Wellington was also awarded the King's Service Medal for services to the Niuean community. A community leader, Hetutu has contributed to the preservation and revitalization of the Niuean language, culture, and heritage for 30 years. And finally, tonight, BCN News had the privilege of catching up with award-winning journalist Barbara Driver. Driver was in Niue this week as part of the media delegation that accompanied the New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon on his first Pacific visit to the region. Known for her hard-hitting stories and covering controversial topics from around the Pacific, renowned New Zealand journalist Barbara Driver is happy to be back on the rock after a lapse of a few years. She says she's deeply grateful after her recent recognition as an officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to investigative journalism and the Pacific communities.
Really the highlight of my life, if we're being completely honest. It was something that was unexpected, but to be acknowledged for services to the Pacific and investigative journalism was, it was. I really didn't know how to react when I got it, because the first thing is usually Pacific people, we're like, oh, I don't deserve this. But my family are so proud and super thrilled about it.
When Barbara is not working, she enjoys spending time with her family, listening to music, cooking and eating, and traveling. Asked what keeps her motivated to still ask the tough questions.
You know, in New Zealand we say he tangata, he tangata, he tangata, and that means the people, the people, the people. And that's why I always think the people deserve better. And it's not that I speak for them, but I give them a voice, so to that platform. And for me, that's so important that people get the chance and the opportunity to have wrongs righted or to have their lives made better.
Her advice to young people on the Rock wishing to pursue a career in journalism:
you've got to be brave. I think that's probably the biggest quality, and you've also got to have low blood pressure, because the stress levels can be really huge. But it's about being brave, and sometimes you have to do things that might not sit comfortably with you, and that's part of just being a journalist. And sometimes you have to go not against your own community, but you sometimes have to do things that your community might not like. They'd rather be kept hidden. But what I would say is that nothing ever changes when it's hidden.
Barbara is currently working on a book that will be released later next year. And that's our news bulletin for tonight. You can join us for our Wangahau Bulletin next Tuesday. Until then, good evening.